Hi, and welcome to our latest edition of the Pursuit 365 Talk Wednesday. As I've mentioned before, Wednesdays have become my favorite day of the week because I get to have these amazing conversations with really interesting people. And I'm really excited to introduce our guest for today. But before I do that, I need to thank our amazing founder, Shelly Lynn Hughes, because without Shelly, of course, Megan and I wouldn't be able to be here with you. And also, it's so important to thank our sponsor, the amazing Leanne Miles at the Clinton Wilkins Mortgage team, because without her, Talk Wednesdays wouldn't be happening either. So thank you, Leanne, for your amazing sponsorship of our Talk Wednesdays. So without further ado, I would love to introduce you guys to Megan. Megan is coming to us today from Abbotsford, BC, which was my home 20 years ago. So we've been having a great conversation before we hit record. It's always cool when you can find some common ground with someone and there's a connection already. And I love that because for me, I can picture where she is, and that's pretty special. So Megan, welcome to our Talk Wednesday today. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to be here.
Good. So you guys have probably already picked up on the fact that I'm this exuberant, over the top kind of individual. And then Megan, just from her first words to me, she just has this calm and very Zen like presence, which I love because I need a little bit more of that in my life. So Megan, when you told me what you do, I was so not surprised. But I'd love for you to share with our group here what it is that your passion is, because it's truly your passion that you are pursuing, and it's incredible.
Yeah, and thank you for the kind words. Yeah, I'm a yoga and meditation teacher, and I also help people with some holistic nutrition, more of the meal plans side of things. And it really has been coming back to my passion and my what I feel like is my purpose at this point in life. Yeah, because I came from the corporate world, so I definitely was much more on the go and doing a lot more events and those kinds of things back in the day, and definitely miss some of that, but definitely enjoying this pace as well.
Good. So now you of course you shared with me, and you've just shared with our audience that you do come from a corporate background. So, but you had shared with me before we started that you grew up in a very holistic setting, lots of, growing your own stuff and whatnot. So did you find that in that corporate world, did you feel like you lost some of who you were and this was a coming back to? Or I would love to hear a little bit more about that journey.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. It really is more like coming back to where I was. I grew up on Vancouver Island, so we did grow a lot of our own food, and a lot of our days were playing like on the beach and just being out and about, like in nature. So it definitely is more to your point, coming back to my roots, for lack of a better word for it. No pun intended, but that is definitely what it feels like, and like many of us, we very busy, single parent for myself for over 10 years. And so when you're working in that corporate life and you're a mom and you're just trying to figure out how you're going to get everybody to school, then sports, and do your 8-hour day, it is very easy to lose that and not have that, self-care and, well-being focus that, we all want to incorporate into our day-to-day or cultivate.
So for you, you mentioned that the pandemic had a big role in, sort of your transition and your shift, but like, was there a specific moment, that you were just like, okay, I'm done with this and this is where I'm going? Or did you find that it was this slow kind of a natural unfolding? It's always interesting, right, to sort of
Yep.
see the path and whatnot. I'm going to let you answer. I'm leaving just for a second. I'm in my sandwich shop and the fridges, I unplugged a couple before we started, but anyway, go ahead and answer and I will be back.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, sort of to answer your question, it was like definitely not like, one moment and that was it. It was definitely over a couple of years. You start to feel like a little bit more worn down. You're starting to notice, that you're just not feeling as good as you used to. You're drinking way more coffee at 4 o'clock in the afternoon than you probably should be. And then all those things start to compound. But in 2019, definitely it was a big shift in my career. So I, as mentioned, in the corporate world, I was doing a lot of things like events and going to locations, and that just wasn't a thing for a couple of years, not in the same capacity anyways that it had been before. And so definitely that was like the final thing where I was like, okay, it is time to make that shift back to what I know, start incorporating all of those things that like I knew growing up, but I went back to school just so I had an understanding of the how and the why they worked, for like my mother and my grandmother, and not just, and then also how they work now, because we are in a different era where we have, devices 24/7, and I'm teaching teenagers, how to be on them, and for example, like how you Google things and how you then get ads, and then these things are beeping all night long, and just having those having that structure around it and incorporating those things that, like, again, I knew from growing up and then I knew from my training, but in 2022 and 2023.
So for someone, to quote unquote work with you, so what is your main method of, do you do classes? Do you work one-on-one? Are you all in person? Are you some virtual? And like, what does your model look like? For
Yeah.
someone to connect with you or to work with you, or all of that.
There's a couple different methods, or options available, because again, where everybody's at is different. So one of my main things is that, with especially when you are really busy, again, thinking back to that time in my life, you might think 5 minutes a day doesn't matter, and it truly can. Like just 5 minutes of doing some breath work, for example, or some basic yoga stretches can really matter. So essentially what I would do is first find out what that person needs, where they're at. But yeah, I do have online classes, I have workshops, an upcoming retreat. So there is a variety of different things based on how much time you have. If you're like Megan, I've got like maybe 5 minutes a day. I have a book of practices that I have put together, and I can share some of those, do coaching based on that. If you want to do a longer like yoga session and build up your practice, I'm working with some people on that, for example, then definitely that's something I can do as well.
Okay, so I'm going to get personal here, because meditation is something that I'm very intrigued by. So, having someone like you in front of me whose brain I can pick a little bit. So it's something that, many people have told me I need to do because I am, so high energy all the time and I'm always go, 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 and, just that importance. And so for me, I've I've always been that person that says, well, I can't meditate because like my brain's always going. But I read something very, very recently that was interesting to me because, again, I tend to be hard on myself. I tend to judge myself. So what I read told me that actually the fact that I'm aware of my thoughts, like when I try to meditate, that's actually a positive thing because it shows me that I'm the one watching. I'm not actually my thoughts, right? Because our thoughts are
Got
what
it. Yeah.
consume us all the time. So unpack that for me a little bit.
Well,
If
you did
you
a
can
really good
follow
job
up
there of explaining it.
what
I
we're
don't think
talking
many of us,
about.
yeah, I don't think many of us can sit there for 15 minutes and just not have a thought. Like, I don't think that's a thing. I think it is that awareness. And it is, so for example, you can also do meditations to boost energy. You can do meditations to ground. So it really depends on what you need. But for your example there, a lot of times you will notice your mind starts to drift, and that's perfectly normal, perfectly okay. Again, that's not meant, it's going to happen to everybody. So like no judgment. And then you just say something to yourself, like, bring your mind back to your breath, or just note what you're thinking and go back to the breath. And you just cultivate that practice, and you start to notice it just becomes, a bit more comfortable. On the other hand, maybe that's not for everybody. Maybe a guided meditation versus silence is better. Maybe, getting your walking shoes on and doing a walking meditation in nature is a better fit for you. It really depends on the person and where you're at and what might be the best meditation for you today. And what's best for you today might not even be what's best for you tomorrow. Just again, based on what kind of day you're having. Like some days I need to just like go sit down, and other days I need to get moving. So
See, but that's what's so interesting, right? Is it's this, like here's all these new things now to learn and to unpack. And then it's like the very first time I went to a yoga class, right? I just like, I don't know, there was, a place down the road that offered yoga. So all right, I booked myself to go to a class. And then for me, especially for a first timer, the particular class I went to was a little too like there was lots of the ohms and a lot, and I was like, whoa, okay, maybe a little out of my realm. So then talking with somebody later, they're like, well, maybe you need to do this kind of yoga instead. And then you're like, oh, for a beginner, so
yeah,
ultimately I'm here as the guinea pig, not knowing the first thing about your world. So I would just love maybe some guidance, because I'm sure I'm not the only one,
for sure.
how someone might approach, where to start with yoga, or where to start with meditation, or questions to ask, or any of that.
Very good question. So first of all, I think it's getting curious, and just being willing to try a few different things. So to your point, maybe that wasn't the class for you, but maybe something else. And also communicating that with your coach, because again, with all coaches and teachers, maybe not that person might be a great coach, just might not be the best fit for you and where you're at. So it is about communicating that, and that's why I do like to have that quick call just to find out where that person's at and what they need, because I might not be the best fit, or somebody else I know might be, and I can recommend you to them, for example. Or maybe just again, part of your homework journey of finding who is your best fit. But my approach is really definitely, that's why I focus more on busy people, because I know what it's like. They're like, Megan, I've got 5 minutes, I've got 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, I've been there. Here's what I've done. And maybe that works for them. Maybe that inspires them to try something else that it makes them think of. But there is no right or wrong. It's just what works for you based on where you're at right now. And especially with a yoga class, again, definitely communicating not just where you're at in terms of what you're wanting, like I was saying earlier, with it being grounded or, boosting energy, but also where you're at physically. Like if you do have any limitations, or, and communicating, hey, I'm at my desk all day, sitting in a chair and typing. That gives a yoga teacher a lot of information about, what to ease into, and what maybe to try first. And, of course, any injuries, things like that.
So with yoga, are there certain types of yoga, like where one might be more, more of a workout yoga, one might be more of again, I don't know your world, so I don't
Yes.
even know quite the terms to use. But is one more meditative, or I would love for you to share maybe some more about that. So again, if somebody's a beginner and they're looking just for that, basic, I want to learn the poses, or
Exactly. And
um,
so that is where I think a really good first, chat is important, like a first call, and just going through those things. That is definitely one of the things I ask. It's like, what are you hoping to get out of this? Because they might use the word, for example, hatha. That's a very popular one, but they might have a very different mindset of what that hatha class is going to be like based on their previous experience. Because you can do so many different sequences with a hatha yoga, right? So that is where it is so individual, and that's where, if you are going to do, like, for example, group classes, for example, you might just want to call them and tell them a little bit, again, based on where you're at, and they might be able to recommend. But for me, when I'm starting with somebody, again, I if they say, oh, I'm looking for a hatha class, I'm like, okay, what are you, so what's your experience with hatha class? And then I usually dig into a little bit of, oh, I've been to 20 hatha classes. Okay, well, then they're going to probably think along similar lines. If they've never done hatha class, or maybe only one, or they've done just a video online, I'm going to dig a little bit deeper and find out, what poses have you done, how which ones did you like, how long were they. There's a whole sequence of questions that we have, just to make sure that it is a good fit for them, and that we start somewhere that is going to be not just good for today, but also something that we can build on. Because a big thing for me is that it should be bite-sized and incremental. So I would rather take it nice and easy today, just do some really good, breath work, stretches, for example, and then build on that the next time, based on how you feel after that first class, just as one example.
Right. So somebody like me, again, I just talk about me and all my questions and my
No,
issues,
that's
because
good.
I always
Yeah.
find that if those are there, right, then other people, I'm sure, have the same ones, and sometimes we don't want to raise our hands and potentially stand out or whatever. But another issue that I've had trying, say, meditation, is when we get into the breath work, right? And that, that in through the nose, fill the belly, and out through the mouth. Well, I find I start to get lightheaded, and right, and then I get distracted because I what like what's the right, how would you walk somebody through, or how would you guide me through the proper way, to connect with that breath without, like I said,
Yeah,
I
getting
sometimes I feel like
lightheaded.
I'm gonna.
I would definitely, like, somebody said lightheaded to me at first. My first thought is, like, maybe just being a little bit more gentle with yourself and a little bit more easy. So maybe that means just doing too much, or just like not, just letting it flow. So maybe just not even trying to do the whole belly breath, and just not push, just let it be, just notice and be aware. So maybe I would just take it back a step, I guess. That would be my first thought, but I would, again, dig into that a little bit deeper in our one-on-one, and just and make sure that you aren't lightheaded, especially before we get into like the yoga practice, for example. It would be definitely, let's dig into that and see if maybe a different breath work would be better for you, because there is a
Right.
variety.
Yes.
So this is, again, where we can go so
Right.
many different avenues to customize it for you, because it is based on what works for you and where you're at today. So
Right. And I am, I'm that intense individual, and I will, I am very coachable, right? But so if somebody tells me that it's got to be this big, I'm going to do exactly what
yeah,
they
feel
tell
your
me to do,
diaphragm,
right? And
right?
then
You're
you're
just
like,
probably like, yeah, yeah. No, I get that.
ah,
Yeah, that's why that was my first thought. I'm like,
it's
maybe we
not
just
working.
need to just, lay on the mat, just 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 be easy with it, and be gentle with ourselves, right? That might be step one.
Right. So it's the same so I went to my first official meditation class about a month ago, and it
Oh,
was
cool.
interesting because they went they went around the room. There was only three of us there that night. It was a terribly snowy evening. So there was the gal guiding the class, and three others. So, you introduced yourself, and, what's your experience with meditation? So, the first person, has a major practice. The person next to me, like, meditates for 2 hours every day. And I was like, and, I've tried it, once on an app on my phone, that kind of thing. So anyway, so it was a guided meditation, where, at one point, I know we were on a boat and we were going through the cave, and there was, crystals in the cave and all this sort of stuff, right? Which again, I was just trying to stay alive with my breath. So when we were finished, I saw colors actually. I have to admit that there was a few moments where different colors had come and gone. But like the gal next to me, she thanked her and said, thank you. That was so beautiful. And the sparkling water. And I was like, really? Like you saw that? Like where she legit saw it, I did not. So again, what is there a right or a wrong? Or the fact that I saw colors, is that a different experience? Or because again, I think what happens in this, we can get judgmental on ourselves, right? And then be like, oh, I can't do this because so that's I guess part of what I would love to unpack for the other people watching.
Great question. Because that it definitely, first of all, never any judgment, like with yoga and meditation and food, because I do the food as well. Just never judgment. Like just not, first of all, take that off the plate, and it becomes so much better if we just be gentle with ourselves right there. And then second of all, like everybody's experience will be different for sure. And I think again that's just perfectly normal. There is no should. Again, whether it's meditation or yoga, the amount of times I have done a yoga pose, and in the group, 3 different people will feel it in 3 different areas. And so meditation can be very much like that too. There is no real should. You're working, like for example in the yoga, certain muscle, but based on like where you are, like in terms of stability or just again injuries and things like that, you could be feeling it in a totally different area. With meditation, that I think is just experiential. It does sound. That's really cool to me that you had like the person next to you could see the sparkling water and then you had the colors. I love that, because that is to me the beauty of it. You're each getting your own, I don't say value out of meditation, but yeah, you're essentially each on your own journey with that exact same guided meditation, but having your own experience with it. And I love that. To me, that's awesome. That's
so why should somebody meditate? Why what are the main benefits? And if you could get a hold of, I don't know, like how young should is ideal to get someone into a practice, and what are the main benefits of the practice?
Yeah. So I think just even starting just with mindfulness. So we don't have to just get the meditation pillow, sit on it and be there for 15 minutes. If you can't, great. But for again, back to like a lot of the clients I work with are really busy people. They do not have that time. So sometimes I just do like the mindful minute, just taking a moment to like, let's say you've dropped off the kids at school, you've gotten back in your car, and that's like the first moment you've had to yourself that morning. And you just take a breath and you're just grateful that, you've gotten the kids to school, they have their lunch bags, hopefully there's lunch in it, and you've got, you don't have to be at work, you don't, for another 45 minutes, just being mindful and showing gratitude and appreciation for your day so far. And maybe setting an intention for, what happens when you get to work. That could be enough. It doesn't have to be any more than that. I don't know if that answers your question, but I would even just start with those, I don't say small things, because they're not small. I think they're quite big, especially when you do start to stack them, like being mindful and then gratitude and taking a breath. Those are very not things that take a lot of time, but will change, at least for me, in my experience, it will change my day. I will feel better in terms of just showing up with that intention, and I'll feel less anxious for me. That was a big part of why I personally got into meditation. After 10 years of single parenting and like running around and trying to get everybody over, my anxiety was through the roof. And that was the practice that really started to bring me back.
Wow.
And it was only with a minute or two.
With
I
you.
did not have half hour. So.
Wow. And that's so interesting, because in speaking with you, I truly mean that. Like, you have such a calm presence to you. And, so for me, I'm like, really? Anxiety? Wow. But
Well, major
again,
anxiety.
sometimes, you know, wow.
And so,
But
it's not like it's gone. It's not like it's never going to happen to me again either. So I also want to say that's not like you're just going to start this meditation practice and you're going to feel Zen all the time. If that does not happen, for those of us that know BC fairly well, like I've had some tough drives over the Coquihalla the last couple of years, as we know, and it's been washed out. And so I was one of the people that was near it when it was happening. And so, or just worrying about your kid who's not answering their phone and it's 1 a.m. and they haven't gotten back from work yet, anxiety will still happen. Like it's never going to go away. It's just, the more I incorporate some of these practices, just the better I get at, remembering it's, that you don't have to be.
What you can and what you can't. Right?
Yeah,
so because that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, because it's that reminding yourself that, okay, me worrying about this is only hurting me. It's not changing the situation, right? That's you worrying isn't going to make the phone ring, right?
Exactly.
That's only stealing energy, which is so easy, to sit here and say that outside of that, that.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it's so easy to talk about just you and I sitting here having this lovely chat. And it is so much harder to incorporate when you are,
absolutely
having those things happen that happen.
So you mentioned, your drives on the Coquihalla and whatnot. So again, you and I beforehand, you'd mentioned that you do have a space in Kamloops, and so that I think is a nice little segue to the fact that you do retreats. So do you have any retreats coming up in the near future that you'd love to share?
Yes. So again, with everything that's happened the last few years, it just kept getting bumped into the future. We'd had it planned for the last summer or two. So now it will be this summer, and it's called Heffley Lake down by Sun Peaks, just outside of Kamloops, for those that are familiar with the area. Or you can always send me a DM and I can send you some information. But it's going to be a very small retreat. It's going to be our first one. And it will be very much just connecting with nature and, enjoying a chance to just work on some of these practices that I have put back together over these years and just share them with others that would like to join me.
Well, congratulations. That's amazing. And it shows progress in our world, right? That, finally to be able to move forward and, to actually not have that fear of, will it actually happen or not? So that is wonderful. So congratulations.
Yeah, especially when people do, buy tickets to for, whether it's driving or flying, you don't want to be having people, invest all of that to get there and then have all these hiccups happen in the world, back to our anxiety. So it is nice to just being able to plan something this year that feels like it will be definitely able to happen. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And how exciting to have something to look forward to. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So where is your favorite place to hang out? Like, where's the best place for people to find you? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it through your website? Where, I know many of us have all of the things, but we all tend to have a favorite spot. So I would
I'm on favorite? Facebook. Facebook is probably where I'm at the most right now. With LinkedIn as well, but for the most part, Facebook would be the one to find me at. And I think we have the link as well in my bio, which I should be up to date. So hopefully if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me, because like I said, so much of this is so individual. It'll be really nice just to, if anybody has questions, to help see if I can be of service in any way.
So on Facebook, will they find you under your name as it's shown here, or do you have a separate page for your business?
I have the website for the business, but no, it will just be, you can find me at Megan Ashby Sewell, and they should be able to find me right there. And otherwise, Instagram is New Leaf Ashby Megan. So either or, I'm around.
If they put your name in, that's a good thing, right? You'll pop up. So that's wonderful. All right. Well, we're about to wrap up, but I like to have a little bit of fun on these. And you had mentioned that you've watched a couple, so you may be prepared for the question, because I have one question that I've incorporated, I think, into all. Maybe I've missed one, but it's become the Pursuit 365 Talk Wednesday question. And the question goes like this. So, Megan, if you were going to do a TED Talk on nothing that you are known for, what would your TED Talk be about?
So yeah, I did see a couple episodes and it made me think for a couple minutes because I was like, something that you're not known about. That is like really the tricky part, right? Because obviously we could all probably talk for 10 minutes on what we do for work, right? But for me, I'm not known for my hiking. I post, if you see like my hiking pictures, but that's my introvert time. So I'm not known for it. And I gotta say, the few people that do hike with me, that they say is like they love what I pack. So I'd probably do a TED talk on what's in my pack for hiking, because 9 times out of 10, it's like, people are like, oh, your trail mix, like such a good mix. Like like they love it, especially on the way back when you're like running low on energy and things like that. So again, even though I'm kind of known for some of those things in other areas, I'm not known for in terms of like, here's what you need for or what I need for my hike. And the things I pack that are super light as well, because nobody wants like a 20-pound pack for the whole day either.
So true. So true. Well, I'd sign up to hear that TED Talk for sure, because sounds very very useful. But that's what's fun, right? That's what I love, because we dig so much into, what we do, which, more and more and more is really starting to reveal more and more about people, because more and more people that I'm meeting through this amazing community are really following their passion, right? They're not, they don't have jobs. They're following their passions, which is so much of who they are. But, it's nice to find those little secret things out about people. And every answer to that question thus far has been so fascinating. Yours being no exception. That's for sure, Megan.
And
so,
yeah, I love some of the
thank
ones
you.
Too. Good answers.
So anything else that you'd like to say or leave our listeners, our viewers with?
No, just thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I really appreciate this. It's been a really fun chat.
Do we namaste?
Yes. Namaste.
Namaste. So thank you so very much for your time, Megan. It's been an absolute pleasure. Like I said, I'm calmer already just because of your presence. And I find that so fascinating, even through technology, how someone's presence can really speak and be felt. And you've just got this beautiful calming effect. So thank you for sharing yourself and your gift with the world. And while I'm thanking people, of course, thank you to Leanne again, and your team for the sponsorship. And of course, to the beautiful Shelley Lynn Hughes for this amazing community that you have built and are continuing to build. It's a pleasure being a part of it. So go forth and have a happy Wednesday, everyone. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.